Okay, what's going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of Energized. Ross, where's the guest, man?
Oh man, the stress of 2021.
Biggest show of the year, Ross. Biggest
Biggest
show of
show
the
of the
year.
year. We actually had Robbie Fox from Barstool Sports lined up
Yeah.
for the show, and he's gone incognito for the last 8 hours.
Well, that's
I
what
haven't heard
happens
back
when
from him.
when you arrive in Fight Island. Some people go crazy. It's like what happens in Vegas.
Yeah, I reckon what has happened is he is jet lagged and probably gone to sleep. I'd say
Yeah, well,
that's my guess.
that's what happens.
Understandable, but like still letting the lads down.
Yeah, well, the show goes on, Ross. So, like, for people who
Does.
are here today to watch the show, thanks a million, or listening, make sure to like and subscribe and let us know in the comments who you think is going to win this weekend between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. But, Ross, before we get into that card, we have to talk about the fight and the card that just went over the weekend. We're going to get into Max Holloway, but, like, what did you make of the card over the weekend, Ross?
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was nice to see the UFC back in a stadium. I thought it was great to see like proper walkouts.
Proper?
Yeah, proper. And I just loved it. I think absence makes the heart grow fonder. And we were 3 weeks without a UFC card, and you really feel it when you're 3 weeks out. And I think I watched probably from the late early prelims all the way through to the end. I thought it was top of the range action.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing as well. What did you make of having fans in the arena? It was strange, wasn't it?
To be honest, I didn't notice too much until the Holloway fight, to be honest. And then, when they were getting the Holloway chants going, I was like, oh, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever wished I was in a arena more than for that fight. It was just, first of all, it was an unbelievable fight, but it was when you see other fans at a fight first in such a long time, it like definitely makes you jealous.
Oh man, I know, and especially like the amount of events that have been announced here in Ireland as well. That we're looking forward to going with Cage Legacy Clan Wars. It's 2021 is lined up to be an amazing year. Also, Conor McGregor announced that he wants to fight at least 3 times this year. It's going to be class, Ross. But like Ross, we start at the top. Max Holloway defeating Calvin Kattar by decision in one of the most unbelievable performances I've ever seen by anyone.
Baz, on a scale of 1 to 10, how giddy was I texting you? I was like a school child, wasn't I?
Oh, you're on another level. Like for people that don't know, if you haven't followed our Instagram or seen the pictures, Ross has a picture with Max Holloway, his favorite picture, bar the one with you and Bruce Buffer. But after the fight, Ross posted that, and then I actually put my face in Ross's body and shared it as well.
Oh man, like just from start to finish, like it was all action, and
Yeah.
you know what? That's a game plan that's like no one can comprehend. Like no one can comprehend that someone's going to go in there and throw another 100 punches than anyone's ever thrown in UFC history at you.
And some people weren't too sure what Max Holloway was going to show up as well.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying, like the lads we had on, Jake and Dunna, I think, were sort of almost picking Calvin Kattar to win, and they were saying he had more pop in his shots. But Max Holloway.
I was thinking that as well. That's the way the media were sort of spinning it. But you
definitely.
have to do that as well. You have to sort of make it seem like the other person could win, or else people aren't going to check it out.
Oh, absolutely. You have to have some form of narrative where it's not a one-sided fight. Max Holloway, 28, 29 years old, I think maybe now, the most strikes in UFC history. Going into the fight, he held that record.
I know you were right with the shout out at the end on the mic, but like when I said death by 1,000 cuts,
yeah,
it was close. Death by 700 cuts.
Yeah. Oh man, he's next level. Like that jab. Sorry, I've never seen anyone stop mid-fight, have a conversation with the commentary booth in a stand-up war, start dodging punches, and then start landing some of his own. That was next level. I was laughing, I was amazed, and I was also concerned at the same time because I was like, Max, don't lose it now.
Yeah. Even the zone, would you call it more being in the zone or in the matrix?
Probably the matrix on this occasion. And he's there telling the guys, "Oh, the best boxer in the UFC," and he's slipping shots left, right, and center. He did it a few times, did a few dances. For me, that performance was a combination between Cody Garbrandt versus Dominic Cruz and McGregor versus Alvarez. That's where the combination was. Like he was as showboating as Cody Garbrandt, but like he was as effective as McGregor against Alvarez. The only thing he didn't get was the finish. And you could definitely argue that fight could have been stopped in the 4th round.
Yeah, it was close, but it just wasn't enough. But like, fair play, Calvin Kattar, man, like, I think he's going to hold that record forever. Most strikes in the world. Unless you going there.
No, man, should we be out in 4 or 5?
Yeah, actually, I'll be knocked out straight away, especially if it was in Ngannou.
Yeah. Well, who knows, man? I think I could last 7 seconds with him.
Yeah, if you run a bit, yeah. Tag me in, WWE style. But man, what a way to start 2021! What a
card. For the year, it won't be. I don't think that fight's going to be like pipped. You know that?
They have to set it in some benchmark, really, Ross.
Yeah, I will laugh at you somewhat trolling the UFC Instagram when Alessio Di Cicero, is that how you say his name? Knocked out Joaquin Buckley. And Baz writes from Energized KO of the year. And a few guys got like a bit butthurt over it, and like it's only the first card. And then like I wrote back on Energized's behalf, and I was like, "Yeah, name a better one, bro."
Yeah, I thought it was fitting, but like Ross, you called what Max Holloway was going to say in the mic. What are your overall, like? I know you were right in what you guessed, but do you think he was right to make that call as well?
I think it just speaks volumes to his personality and who he is as a fighter. I think that's who he is. He is a company man, and he wants those big legacy fights. I think that's why he said he'd do it. Like either way, he'd love a third crack at Poirier, I'm sure, and he'd love a rematch against Conor McGregor. He'd even probably fill in for one of the co-main event spots. That's just who Max Holloway is. He could go all day.
And what about this Volkanovski? What about this Volkanovski fight as well? Because obviously Volkanovski's lined up to fight Ortega next. Max Holloway has to be up there, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, I think he could be the fill-in fighter for the fight for a start. I mean, they might get him to weigh in and do the fight. Like, he's not doing any sparring anymore in his training, which I think is incredible. And it was, when I was listening to that, I had two different opinions on it. Like, obviously, if you're young in the game, you have to get your miles on the clock. You have to do your sparring. But also depends on what style of fighter you are as well. Max Holloway is so skilled in stand-up. I don't believe he needs to get hit in training. He knows what getting hit is like. But if you're someone like, let's say, Ben Askren, I mean, where your stand-up's not up to par, you still have to practice sparring. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. But I think he'll be ready at UFC 260 to go again. I wouldn't put it past him fighting in the meantime. He looks like he wants to stay active and he wants to keep fighting away. I think he will be the understudy for that fight card, and regardless of what way the result comes, people are clamoring now for Max Holloway to get a third shot at the gold.
Yeah, aren't they?
Yeah, I've never seen people be more impressed with a fighter right across the board, and like it's crazy. Sometimes you're watching UFC and you see the tweets coming up, and there was, I think James Arthur at one stage was tweeting saying like how impressed he was with Max Holloway. It's interesting to see which celebs also follow UFC as well, because come McGregor fight night, you probably get like J-Lo tweeting and Ronaldo tweeting sort of thing.
Yeah.
But come a Max Holloway fight night, who's tweeting is always interesting.
Yeah. And
maybe we'll get James Arthur on for a podcast.
Yeah. Who knows? Drake's also a big fan of Max Holloway as well.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say. You got to beat the best, and the best is blessed.
Exactly, Ross.
Also, he blew up social media afterwards as well, and that goes to show people were very impressed with him.
Yeah, I was so happy for him, man. I was so happy the UFC was back. I was just so happy for everything. It was just literally the cherry on top. It was of the cake. It was just absolutely brilliant.
And also, what doesn't make a big deal to us, Basmo, but does make a big deal in the States, is they were actually fighting on a different network on that night on ABC, which I'm pretty sure is a big deal. I'm pretty sure all the boxing back in the day, like Muhammad Ali, used to fight on ABC, and this is the first time they were back on ABC, which I think is the largest free network TV in the States. So I think it would be almost like fighting on RT over here as opposed to fighting on TG Cahir. So fair play.
Imagine the amount of the new audience after hitting there as well. And Max Holloway is just become more of a household name if he wasn't already. But Ross, like, not only do we have that, like, so there were some also amazing knockouts in the main card as well. The prelims weren't that amazing. Bar the heavyweight bash, you'd say Tafa. Sorry, who was Tafa taking on again?
And Philippe.
Tafa and Philippe. They were literally like two rhinos, forehead to forehead, bashing away. It was just like, oh, it was like in a phone booth. But like,
Yeah,
Ross,
shout out to Frank Mears podcast, Phone Booth Fight, and that's where it was.
is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ross, the immortal, the natural born killer, Carlos Condit got the win against Matt Brown as well by decision. This is also a great fight as well, but with two legends of the sport.
Yeah, there was a lot more wrestling than I thought was going to be involved in this, but that probably just goes to show the guy's age that they're not willing to stand in the tray as much. Matt Brown was 40 going into that fight, and like, he was in very good shape as well. They don't call him the immortal for nothing, but I was sitting there, and it was Carlos Condit's last fight on his deal. I don't particularly see the UFC re-signing him. I just feel like he's probably on a hefty pay packet for what you get out of him, and I was sort of thinking, if these went in here against like Ali Jing Lang, I think that's how you say his name,
Yeah,
who fought like on the undercard, or Ponzinibbio or Gilbert Burns, like they're just going to get smashed, and I think that's just the reality of it at this stage. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them swan off and maybe do a fight or two in Bellator or a fight in the PFL. One last payday for both of them, I think, could be a great option. I don't know if that was Matt Brown's last fight, but if Matt Brown actually won, I think he'd have the most knockouts in UFC history.
Jesus. Speaking of knockouts, Li Jing Liang defeated Santiago Ponzinibbio, and that's a brilliant win, Ross, in the first round, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really, really was. Obviously, massive ring rust for Ponzinibbio. I don't think he's fought since 2019. It really, really showed. He couldn't really get much combos off, and I think Dan Hardy said it best. He left pocket, it came from way down low, and once it landed, that was all she wrote. Ponzinibbio tried to tell the ref he was fine, but he was anything but. He was anything but.
That was actually great refereeing, in my opinion, as well.
Oh, brilliant.
And then something we have to talk about as well. Joaquin Buckley, Mr. 2020 knockout of the year, turns into Mr. 2021 knockout recipient of the year. Knockout victim of the year by Alessio De Cicero, who was coming in on a three fight losing streak as well.
Yeah, it was a, you know what, it was a bit of a funny head kick, because when you watch it in full motion, it didn't look like it landed that flush, but then when you see it again in sort of slower motion, you're like, oh, clip him on the head, sort of knocks the equilibrium, and then he followed up and knocked him out.
Yeah, it was almost where Conor McGregor knocked out Poirier in the first fight. It was like just around there.
Yeah, would you say that hype train's over and done with now?
Is he? I was listening to Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy speaking about Joaquin earlier, saying that he's just sort of a tweener. He's too depleted at welterweight, and he's too small for middleweight. But I mean, he wasn't undefeated going into this fight, and he's certainly not now. So who really knows what happens? But like, that's the thing about MMA. Like, there's a new star like almost every month. So
do you think he's like the new version of Uriah Hall?
I'm not too sure. I think in order for him to get a bit more stardom again, he'd have to fight James Krause, because there is bad beef there, and that could happen at middleweight, possibly a welterweight. But let's see what happens, Ross. But like, we have to give an honourable shout out to Puna Soriano, our actual mate. He went into this. He's still undefeated. He beat Dusko Todorovic. This was a great scrap. Soriano's now, I think, 9-0, and funnily enough, during this fight, Dusko lost his gum shield as he was about to get knocked out, and then they had to go and find it, and then eventually Soriano got the job done,
and they got knocked out.
Yeah, that's the first time it's happened this year, but actually it happened last year as well. And I remember Dana White after saying, "Can you believe that happened?" And I was like, "Well, it happened a couple of weeks ago." So like, yeah, but yeah, man, what a card, Ross. Overall, you said you give this, I think, an 8.5 out of 10. Did it live up to the expectation?
I'd still stick with my 8.5 out of 10. I give Max Holloway a 10 out of 10. But in terms of, I think like James and Dunn said last week, you know what I mean? There wasn't much at stake bar the main event in this one. And I still believe that, but I still believe there was enough at stake in the main event to keep me interested. Max Holloway, before this fight and now solidifying this fight, is a top 10 UFC star. He's a far larger star than anyone in the featherweight division.
It was it was on a great time for us as well. Usually we're up till 5 a.m. in the morning watching these fights, and you're just like buzzing. But like it was all said and done at like 12 o'clock. I didn't know what to do with myself. Oh, fortunately, the UFC 257 countdown was on straight after, so I was like, I ordered the takeaway and just got like loads of ice cream and just started watching it.
Also, one final last shout out to Max Holloway. I think he broke 5, if not 7 records, between 5 and 7 records. I think it was most strikes thrown in the UFC fight, most strikes landed in the UFC fight, most significant strikes thrown, most significant strikes landed. I think it was most strikes, significant strikes thrown in a round, and most significant strikes landed in a round. And then fair play to Calvin Carter's chin for absorbing them all. But if you haven't seen that fight, find a way of watching that fight. It was next level.
Yeah.
The highlights don't even do it justice.
They don't. You really have to like follow that and just be like, "Whoa, what am I watching here?" I say
also, Basbo, can we say, when's the last time you saw an MMA fight that was stand-up only, didn't once go to the ground, and there was like 50-42 across the board?
I can't even think.
I don't think it's ever happened. I think
No.
it's the first time ever. I don't think I've ever seen such a one-sided stand-up fight that lasted 5 rounds.
No, it was just top of the range. It was just world-class performance. And as we said, like Katter's no joke as well. But Ross, we should get into Wednesday's card because I'm not too sure 100 like everyone is aware that there is a Wednesday card on as well. Originally it was meant to be headlined by Leon Edwards versus Kazmat Chimaev, which would have, man, that would have been sensational. But it is being headlined by Michael Chiesa taking on Neil Magny. Ross,
I'm right in saying that this one's on like even earlier.
Yeah,
like 12 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, for the people in around England or people living around, it kicks off at 2 p.m. The prelims kick off at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. So like it'll be all done by around 8 or 9 o'clock probably. But Ross, we may as well start before we get into UFC 257 this weekend. And thanks for the people who are sticking around. And if you're enjoying the show, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Ross, we should start off with the Chiesa and Neil Magny fight, and then we should give a few honorable mentions on the card because there is some fighters in this card people have to watch out for. So Ross, Michael Chiesa, Neil Magny in the middleweight division.
No, welterweight.
Welterweight division. Sorry, excuse me.
It's all right, man. Don't worry. I'm used to you getting them wrong.
Yeah, the UFC didn't even put this in there. I knew Chiesa moved up, and I was like, maybe it's welterweight division.
Well, look, Chiesa's coming off wins over Diego Sanchez, Carlos Condit, and Rafael dos Anjos. Obviously, Rafael dos Anjos has been the big one. And Neil Magny, on the other hand, is coming off equally good wins against Li Jingliang, Anthony Rocco Martin, who is like criminally underrated, and Robbie Fox. So like Magny like really putting on Lawler, and Chiesa with a massive win over dos Anjos. So like these are almost like secret contenders, you might even say, in the welterweight division. If I had to be honest, I'm sort of leaning towards Neil Magny. I think he's a more natural welterweight. I don't think he could ever have made lightweight.
I'm surprised Chiesa made lightweight, Ross.
Yeah, he is very, very large. I think Chiesa's slightly better on the ground, but I think Magny's better on the feet and in the scramble. So I think Magny's going to be hard to get to the ground and keep the ground. And I just think on the feet, he has slightly better stand-up and a better gas tank. So I'm going to go for Magny. I think a decision, but like I think a close decision as well. I think it could be like a 48-47 decision almost.
I was hoping you were going to spice that what you thought was going to happen up a bit more, but as you were going on there, I was like, I can't see either guy knocking each other out. I can't really see Chiesa getting Magny in a choke or anything, making him submit. So I'm going to go Magny as well. Decision. I don't like, we don't like copying each other, Ross, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, as one would say. Ross, who else in this card looks nice yet? I just want to give an honorable mention to Munir Lazez. He's fighting in the welterweight division, the co-main event. He's from that region around Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and he's definitely one to watch out for. His last fight, he had an unbelievable performance on Fight Island as well. But who else in this card, Ross, do you like to look of?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to Mason Jones versus Mike Davis. Mike Davis is an absolutely phenomenal athlete.
Tell the people about Mason Jones a bit.
Mason Jones is a 2-weight world champion out of Cage Warriors. a la Conor McGregor. He was the lightweight champion and the welterweight champion. He's got really, really good hands. He's actually very, very good all over.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he's been in Abu Dhabi for a good while now. I follow him on social. I think he's been there for at least 10 days. So he's over there. He's climatized. And these are two top prospects. This is a blue chip prospect coming out of Wales. He is the Welsh Dragon. It's Mason Jones. Make sure you watch him fight this weekend. This is sort of the closest thing I can describe to this is Wales' version of Conor McGregor without the mouthpiece. This is their great wide hope, I think. And you might want to say you were there when you saw Mason Jones make his UFC debut.
I wasn't expecting you to say that. That's a high. What's the saying?
High bar, or a high.
You put him on a pedestal. You put him on a pedestal, but
well, look, Cage Warriors is no joke. Well, we both know that, and to be a 2-weight world champion in Cage Warriors isn't an easy thing to do. He was criminally undersized when he won the welterweight title. He's fighting back down to lightweight. He looks in the best shape I've ever seen him in his career. And you know me, Baz, I don't like the hyper prospect too much, but I think Mason Jones is the real deal. In saying that, I don't think he has an easy out with Mike Davis. Mike Davis is an incredible athlete, and he won't be one easy to put away.
Exactly, Ross. That's going to be that's one I'm definitely looking forward to. That's going to be on very early. That should be around 3 o'clock. I think that's the third fight on the card. Ross, also Khabib's cousin Umar Nurmagomedov's on this card as well in the bantamweight division. Who else do I like the look of here?
And Tom Breeze on the card as well.
Tom Breeze as well. That's definitely one to look out for as well. He's coming off a great win. He trains with Team Renegade.
And for those who are big fans of Davison Figueiredo, watch out for Match and Tyson Nam, because the winner of that could be next in line for a title shot after the Brandon Moreno rematch.
Okay. Now, Ross, I think the reason everyone's here, not just to see you, not just to see me, UFC 257. Before we get into the card, Ross, let's talk about what we've sort of seen over the last week. Conor's done some interviews. Where do you want to start? There's been a lot. Like obviously, Khabib came out and said, Dana came out and gave that announcement on the Max Holloway card that Khabib.
Yeah, maybe we start with Khabib.
Yeah, I was just like, I want to get everything in. You know, we don't want to finish it and be like, we never said this, we never said that. So start with Khabib, the return of Khabib, Ross. For people that didn't see on the weekend, what was said for Khabib?
So Dana White and Khabib had a meeting. They met in the Fighter Hotel. Barry actually sent me Khabib's Instagram story. It was one of the funniest things ever. It was just a quick, like, I was almost, you have your phone like this for those watching, and I was a bit like, there he is, snap, and then put the phone away. It was as if you were sort of taking a picture on the slide, but like the worst ever on the slide of all time. Yeah. Look, Khabib basically told Dana White he's going to see what happens this weekend. So Khabib's decision was he was going to wait and see, which is not really the decision I think people were looking for. I think people want to know, is Khabib coming back or is Khabib returning? Dana White did say one thing, that Khabib said he wouldn't hold up the division, which is sort of ironic because right now, until he decides he's holding up the division,
he won't hold it up. It's like he is right now. It's like after this he won't.
Yeah. So look, I think if Conor McGregor wins in impressive fashion, you know, they're saying Khabib is cornering his cousin this weekend, then going home. I don't know if he is going home. I think they might just be saying he's going home. If I was Khabib Nurmagomedov, I'd want to see UFC 257 in the flesh.
I'm literally so excited for this weekend. Like it's just because of what everything's been said in the interviews. Obviously, Conor was on the Mac Life, which something I want to talk about. Conor was also on weighing in. Josh Thompson, Big John McCarthy saying stuff as well. His interview with his interview with Ariel as well. There's so much. Everything's intensifying. It's all about to happen. It's so exciting, isn't it? And it's not just the Conor thing being Irish. It's just everything. The story, how determined he looks, how the MMA landscape is changing. Like everyone is really intrigued by it. Even as I said earlier, the Cage Legacy, we are in contact with them. We want to do stuff with them. Clown Wars as well. Like, I mean, how excited are we, Ross, like covering MMA before we get into UFC 257? Just like what's happening around us. Like,
yeah. Me and Barry have been in talking all week that we were saying Clan Wars and Cage Legacy, and like they were actually announcing stuff so fast between the two of them. It was almost like they were in competition. I suppose they sort of are in a small manner, but we were actually like, wait, is that fight in Clan Wars or Cage Legacy? Like that's how many fights were being announced within a week. And then on top of that as well, Cage Warriors are coming back in March, and we're excited for that too. MMA is just kicking off it's firing on all cylinders. I think it's the one sport who hasn't let the pandemic take full effect on it, and we are very much grateful for it. We were talking to one of the lads the other day, and he was like, why don't you do like more football shows? And I was like, the MMA has given us so much content each week that like it would have to be a totally different separate podcast for football.
Yeah, it will be, yeah.
And like we only have so much time in a week, and I mean we only have so much free time in a week. We're both working full time, and we're doing the show as the best side hustle of all time.
Yeah. I mean, we still couldn't we were let down, but I mean, like that's the way what happens, who knows?
That's why the cookie crumbles sometimes,
That's the thing, man. That's the thing,
But Barry, before we get into this actual fight, right, isn't it interesting to see the American narrative on Conor McGregor? It's so different to the Irish narrative. Like I was sitting there with Ariel Helwani, and they were saying like his like philanthropic ways are incredible. For anyone who doesn't know who a philanthropist is, it's someone who's like really, really rich and then like starts to give back and give their money back. Like, proper 12 whiskey, each bottle of that you buy actually gives back to first responders in that area. So if you buy it in Ireland, it gives back to the first responders in Ireland. You buy it in Boston, it gives back to the first responders in Boston. So he's giving back to, ambulance drivers, firefighters, police officers. Like that's like such a great thing to do. He ordered so much PPE gear for Ireland during the pandemic. He is one of Crumlin Children's Hospital's biggest donators every year.
Shout out to Pete Carroll.
Yeah, shout out to Pete Carroll. That was unbelievable. Little I don't know if I could call it a documentary or a segment on BT Sports. Yep. And on top of that, he also saved his friend's gym, SBG Port Arlington, Philip Mulpeter. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's done some bad things, like he punched the old man in the bar, but like you have to get over these things. Like he never claimed to be perfect. He never claimed to be this role model, but at the end of the day, he does a lot more right than wrong. You know what I mean? Like people want to try and tarnish his name and then come up with all these other allegations against him. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, people could say, I've done this, I've done that. It doesn't actually make it true. I'm like, not saying that like anything that's not proven in court didn't happen, but unless like he's actually convicted of anything, you shouldn't put that blemish on him because you saw a screenshot of a WhatsApp being passed around, sort of thing. You know what I mean? And like that's the way the world is nowadays. It's almost trial by WhatsApp. And what Conor McGregor is actually doing compared to what people say he's doing are two totally different ball games, and it's actually quite inspirational, to be honest.
Yeah, I actually think Ariel was nearly about to start crying at the end of that interview, do you know?
Yeah, well, like Conor
he teared up.
He wasn't messing when he sent the invite. He was like, "Can we get Ariel over here? Come on over."
Yeah,
that's the type of guy he is.
Even the way on the McLive interview when Conor Jr. was running in, he's like, "Daddy's at work. This is Daddy's work." I was like, "Oh my God!" Like seeing him as a dad, you're seeing him in a different light. Someone mentioned that the Audiatar like pushed the kid in to be like, "Get in there quick." The OR team. Well, and then even with Josh Thompson and Big John, what he was talking about, he was even talking about the stuff Bellator has done for Ireland. It's just, and hopefully Bellator announce a few fights soon. They're getting left behind, and like we're friendly with too many fighters in our roster for them not to be fighting. Because like if you're a fighter right now looking at Fight Island and like even all the other events they're popping back up, you must be chomping at the bit. Shout out to everyone on the Bellator roster. But Ross, the thing is, because of the coronavirus, everyone had to sit down, reassess everything, and I think like Conor really did get to sit down, and he like, as you would know yourself, you can tell me differently, sitting there with your kid, or in Conor's situation, kids, and soon to be a third kid. I bet you really got to like sit down. You have a lot of time there, and you're like, there's certain things I really want to achieve for my kids to look up to me, and there's certain things in life that I haven't achieved yet that I want them to see. And maybe someone like Conor, like yes, he has all the money, but he's still fresh in the game. He hasn't done many wars. He hasn't really, technically you could say that he hasn't really defended the belt. He hasn't cleaned out the division. He looks like a new animal.
Yeah, and that's what he was saying. Like any name that was brought up from the lightweight division, he said he wants to fight. He said he wants to fight Tony Ferguson. He wants to fight Nate Diaz. He wants to fight even Aloy Quinta got a shout out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all these guys.
Yeah. What did he say about Al again?
He goes. He's sort of cute doing that real estate thing or something.
Yeah. So he's funny. Yeah, finding that gas or something. Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah. But yeah, I believe him. Like I think he does want to fight 3 or 4 times a year. I think the UFC were afraid to roll out their cash cow during the pandemic. They were waiting to get fans back. The fans weren't coming back for a long time. I know they did eventually get the fans back, but I think UFC 257 was booked before they thought they were going to get fans back. I think they just happened to be allowed to get fans back. I think Conor's right. He does want to fight. Like I know people sort of almost criticizing him, like, yeah, but he tried to fight Diego Sanchez. I think he was trying to fight anyone and everyone at the time. I think anyone would have done for him to get the fight. I think he was like, I'll fight Cowboy, and then a month later I'll fight Sanchez just to, get another round in, sort of almost more than anything. I don't think he was like everyone's clamoring to see Diego Sanchez versus McGregor. I think he was like, you know what, Diego for his career is owed a big fight.
And also the way he said that fighters who are coming off losses and stuff, he doesn't care about that. I think that's great for up and coming fighters who are sort of that could potentially try and go into the boxing mold, trying to become like 5-0, 10-0, 15-0, 20-0, putting so much pressure on the records. Where it's just like, if you're entertaining, people are going to check in. Like, you know what I mean? Ben Askren was undefeated and no one was actually really entertained, so they didn't check in, you know?
Yeah, like look at Kamaru Usman, you know what I mean? He's never lost in the UFC. Like, no one's buying his pay-per-views, but Jorge Masvidal's lost over 10 fights, and people are clamoring to see him fight. Same with Nate Diaz, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, I'm convinced that Conor has some part to play in these clan wars and cage legacies picking back up again. If he isn't, that's fine, but I'm convinced he sort of is, because he was saying he wants to give back to these coaches and volunteers and everything he's done with Lord Celtic as well. It's hard not to sound like you're a nut hugger, but when you see that stuff going around in your community and in your own country, you have to really, like, it inspires a next generation, a new wave of people as well to do good.
Well, it definitely makes you look at other top celebs and top money earners in the country, and you almost go, what are you giving back? You know what I mean? Like I always go, where's Bono? You know what I mean? Where's him? Like, he doesn't even pay his taxes, and he's there with all the money, you know. But I don't know. I think there's definitely something to be admired there, and I think in terms of what the fans want now is we want to see him back in the octagon. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what we're going to see this weekend. He's going to start off 2021 with a bang. I think we're all under the illusion that he will win. I think we all think he will win impressively. He's in the greatest shape of his career. And again, like, I think UFC in the past have been afraid to pull the trigger on him. I don't think they should be afraid to pull the trigger on him now. If he wins fast, let him fight again, turn it around and fight again. The problem is they don't want to share pay-per-view with anyone and have to pay them out millions of dollars. Okay. You know what I mean? So that's why when I see they should almost hold off booking the pay-per-views in the future until like McGregor's rolls around, or they need to start putting like 3 championship fights on one pay-per-view and then McGregor the next one to actually get the ball rolling. Because if they start staggering the championship ones, that actually lessens a pay-per-view for McGregor, unless you do 2 pay-per-views in a month, which is not something that UFC is that keen on doing.
We can't underestimate the power of what could happen if Conor knocks it Poirier out within 60 seconds, and having all the people in the arena, like there's obviously a few sheiks there, and there's definitely a lot of money in that arena, but they will be like, get him back here next month, get him back here in the summer, get him back here in the end of the year. They're gonna want to witness him full stop. Like the demand is going to be enormous.
Yeah, well, like the next pay-per-view event for McGregor to actually fight on, I think, is UFC 261, as far as I'm aware. You know what I mean? So, like, it's going to be very, very interesting to see, and like, I don't know, I'm excited to see it. See how he gets on.
What did you make of the way they were discussing him becoming the coach on The Ultimate Fighter? Because we all know he's going to Vegas straight after the event.
To be honest, I'm not actually that keen on that happening. If I was brutally honest, like I'm not dying to see McGregor coach against someone in the old fight. I think he would do it,
Yeah.
and I think UFC would love to have him doing it because it's going to be on ESPN, and like obviously that's serious ratings. But I think the perfect coach is already there. You get Jorge Masvidal and you get Colby Compton, and just make him do it. I
Maybe
think
Conor
they're
could
the
drop
perfect.
in.
Like, who's he coach against?
I know that's the
Who
thing.
he's going to coach against? Like he said he could coach against Khabib. I don't see Khabib coaching against him. I have no interest in Charles Oliveira, Conor McGregor. I have no interest in Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor. Like in terms of them doing coaching, I'd rather just Conor went off and trained and then fought. But again, I'd happily see Jorge Masvidal do coaching and bring Conor McGregor in for a session or something like that. I'd go for that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Conor and Poirier meet for the first time. That could potentially be on Thursday at the press conference. Make sure people to check that out. They'll be on YouTube and UFC's channel. But Ross, let's get into it, right? UFC 257 being headlined by Poirier versus Conor McGregor. For people that don't know, fought before and Conor knocked Dustin Poirier out. What are you expecting in this matchup? It's now in the lightweight division, arguably both men's best weight. What are you expecting this time around, Ross?
I expect McGregor to win in sub 2 minutes, to be honest. I feel like he just lands with such power. Poirier wants to go to war. I feel that means he's going to want to stand up and bang with McGregor. If you stand and bang McGregor, unless you have a granite chin like Nate Diaz, it's only going to end one of two ways. Poirier's been there before. He's been finished. He's been wobbled. And I just don't see him being able to withstand Conor McGregor's barrage of strikes. Now, in saying that, he's never been finished back up at lightweight, but Khabib choked him, but not knocked out. And I don't see McGregor knocking him out. But again, who knows?
McGregor choking him out. Yeah, so Ross, so some people were mentioning how much, like Conor was mentioning how much he's getting paid this fight. How much do you think both men are actually getting paid for this fight?
Very, very interesting. So it's never known because you never know what the backhand.
I know, but just you tend to know a decent gauge, you know.
I would say McGregor stands to make about 50 or 60 million for this fight.
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought it was like 20 million. But go on.
No, I think he was talking about the Cowboy fight last year, and he said he's going to make 80 million, and he said he didn't quite make that. So what's not quite 80 million? Probably 50 to 60 million.
And what about Poirier?
1.5 million pay-per-views or more. It depends what he got put on the pay-per-view points. I'd like to hope he did. I'd say he probably stands to make maybe 5 to 10 million, depending on pay-per-view buys.
Is that including the 500,000 Conor's given to him to build his new gym in Louisiana?
I'm sure that's separate to that. I'm sure McGregor will give him 500,000. I don't know whether Poirier is going to give a large chunk again, and I think it would be a good PR stunt for the UFC to donate towards that as well. Just there is always problems as a large organization if you do donate to Poirier. You know, every fighter might have a charity that they're fighting for, that they're asking for money for. Then, Michael Chiesa is also selling his hoodie this weekend and some other of his apparel to the Good Fight Foundation. So fair play to Michael Chiesa this weekend.
Nice one. So Ross, we're both predicting Conor McGregor to win. I just like, as much as I want to be looking at both sides, where do each side go? We should play devil's advocate then, right? So we start off. Conor, let's say Conor wins. No matter how he wins, what do you think is going to be said in the mic? Because that is when the whole world that is watching is going to turn up the volume and keep their mouth bleeding shut.
I feel like I'm under pressure now because of last week's Holloway shout out.
Yeah, you have to go 2 for 2.
I think he calls out Khabib. I think he says, "Where's that little rat scurry off now?"
He's not talking about Jake Paul then, no?
No, I think he's going to call out Khabib or Magomedov, and I wouldn't be surprised if he sort of gave all the lightweights can get it as well. You know, I mean, a la his Cowboy Cerrone sort of shout out, you can all get it, but I think there'll be a special mention of Khabib.
And what about? I think that's the only fight that really. Yeah, I don't know if you'll mention him.
Like I think allude to him.
Yeah, Conor's very good at not mentioning stuff that he doesn't want to mention. Even the way Ariel was interviewing him, and he sort of poked at the Jake Paul thing. without mentioning, but Conor was very, very smart in his response. He's magic on the mic. But Ross, like, let's say if this could potentially turn out to be a draw or potentially a win for Dustin Poirier, what do you expect for Dustin Poirier to say in the mic, and who do you think he could fight next?
I don't think he'll actually call. I don't think Poirier would call anyone out. I think he'd. Well, first of all, he'd probably just say he deserves that title shot or he deserves the belt now, and then like he'd probably be very emotional, probably cry a little bit, and just talk about his good fight foundation. To be honest, I don't think if Poirier does win, I don't think he does have anyone to call out.
Could be a trilogy with Conor.
Could be a trilogy with Conor. Could be a Charles Oliveira fight. Could be a rematch with Justin Gaethje. There's plenty of stuff on the table for Poirier.
And that's always good. And shout out to Dustin Poirier as well. He's an absolute legend. But Ross, in the co-main event, just in case Conor or Dustin Poirier gets injured, Dan Hooker is taking on Michael Chandler, and one of these lads might end up having to go up and take on Dustin or Conor if something bad happens. But Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler, Ross, in the co-main event, what are you expecting from this?
Yeah, I just have to think Dan Hooker's going to win. I think Michael Chandler might have. He's after biting off. I don't know what to drink in New Zealand, but a tall glass of milk anyway. And Dan Hooker, like, he's so big for 155. I can't believe Dan Hooker used to make 145. He's so long and rangy, and I think in a 3-round fight he's going to be able to withstand that. Now I could be wrong, and Chandler could be able to take him down and ground and pound him for those 5 rounds. But I look at the two and think Hooker might have to go to welterweight, and Chandler probably could have made a featherweight. That's the way I look at them in terms of stature, and I just feel like Dan Hooker's the bigger man. And when you get to that close in skill level, I think that size is going to make a big difference.
You just expected Dan Hooker to keep the distance and just jab the head off him?
It's not even jab the head off him. I just think he's going to strike from range, and I think he's going to hurt him, and I think he's going to finish Michael Chandler.
For some reason, I'm just going to go Chandler in this. I like the way, I just like the way he moves. I like his wrestling background. It'd be interesting. Just the way he came from Bellator, it would actually be good for Bellator for Chandler to win this, and then say he wants to fight the winner of the main event, something cool like that, just to keep, because like Bellator needs to get back, and this would be, I know he doesn't fight for him anymore, but this would be great for Bellator to be like, look, our athletes are on the same par. Ross, is there any other fight on the card you want to look out for?
Yeah, well, in terms of, give me 2 secs.
We jump out the early prelims. Just anyone there?
You call out a few there for me, and I'll tell you who I think's going to win.
Yeah, it's someone I mentioned yesterday. Andrew Sanchez is taking on Mahmoud Muradov.
I think I like Mahmoud Muradov. I think once those Dagestani fighters are in, you're just like, oh, you know what? I think that's for me.
Yeah. Then Khalil Roundtree Jr. is fighting Marcin Prashino in the light heavyweight division.
I think you have to go for Khalil Roundtree. Is it John Hutchinson? Is that his name?
Yeah. Well, you see, the thing is, Khalil Roundtree's striking coach isn't that good, so I don't know if he'll be that good.
No, Johnny's the man. He has Khalil over there in tip-top shape, and I think he's gonna go in there and do the business. Hopefully knock out. I'd love to see him go back to that Muay Thai stance. That was outrageous the last time.
Well, that's what happened in his last camp. I don't think he went over to Thailand to do that, and then he lost. So, and the fight camp before that, he won. Who did he beat again? He fought the Turkish guy.
Did he fight? Gokhan Saki.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. Okay, and then who else on the main card? Othman Aziatar. He is one of Ali Abdulaziz's clients.
Guys, he's undefeated as well, and he's fighting Matt Frivola, who I'm pretty sure came out of the Contender Series, if I'm not wrong, and I'm normally not wrong. He's 8-1 because he had a draw against Lando Venata. I think Attar might be able to knock him out in this one, but Matt Frivola's a bit of a grinder.
Yeah,
so and then it'd be interesting to see there. Also some flyweight action. Jessica Oi versus Joanne Calderwood. They're both probably dying for, well, Jessica's dying probably for another crack, and Calderwood's definitely looking for a crack at Valentina Shevchenko, who is the scariest woman in UFC history. And Who else we have? Brad Tavares fighting Shoeface on the card. Yeah, you know what? It's not
Amanda Ribas is also on the card. She's well liked by the UFC community as well. She's getting a good push.
Yeah, she beat Paige Van Zandt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Her last fight, yeah. So look, it's not the healthiest card, but look, once you put Conor McGregor top the bill, it doesn't actually matter what the rest of the card is. So it's fine. We'll both be there. We'll both be watching. We'll both have our Conor McGregor
proper 12s
in hand.
Yeah,
proper 12s in hand.
Yeah, but that prelim card, they start around 12:30. It says there, so it'll be a long late night. It's going to be.
Sorry, would you cut out for a sec?
Yeah, it's going to be a long late night, Saturday night, and then we're going to be back again on Monday to discuss everything.
I do think I might go to sleep before the fights and try and get up for them, because it's night. But I am definitely looking forward to it. I can't wait to hear the Notorious Foggy Dew remix and McGregor do his walkout. It will be an epic night of fighting.
The embeddeds, everything, man. It's just this is it's events like this is the reason why we do this stuff, you know.
Yeah, it really, really is. This is the reason we wake up in the morning and go, today's the day of the podcast. And
no matter what.
Last thing I just want to say is, because we're probably close to an hour into it, it's just that thank you so much everyone for supporting the show. Thank everyone for liking and sharing. We've got a massive push over the last month, and it's really sort of re-energized us doing the show, and we're really, really buzzing for it. So guys, thanks a million for liking the show. Do you have anything else to add in, Baz?
No, it's just cheers to 2021 full of action, man. That's really it.
And if you are sitting at home and you have liked the show and you've not hit that subscribe button, what are you doing?
We went over 1,000 subscribers as well.
Yeah. So guys, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and as always,
stay energized.